Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the ability to live in a country that where we can come together and meet and do city business and discuss things that need to be discussed and make decisions that need to be made. I pray tonight that your presence will be here, you will lead us, you will guide us, pour out your grace and mercy upon us, and thank you for your presence here. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In your package, you have the minutes from the 40th meeting. Motion second. Motion second. Changes, corrections. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Listen, would you like to start changing?
Last month, you all allocated some funds for us to start advertising for 100 Mile Yard Sale, so we started designing those ads and placing them. That's well underway. The other thing we talked about was submitting bids for photography services from area photographers. As I have started creating that proposal, it's become a much larger project than I anticipated. So I'm seeking out some community partners who might also have an interest in getting photos and making it a bigger project than just the city alone doing, adding some more value to it. So I'm not quite ready to submit that to you yet. So I'm gonna keep working on that and get a better proposal out there and try to get us some partners. The other thing I have is Missouri Main Street Connection is putting money back into their affiliate grant program. That's a city 60-40 matching grant geared toward downtown. Several years ago, we made a big push for downtown, and there was a lot of good work done, and that's kind of stalled, so we're going to see if maybe that's worth us looking back into. There's going to be a conference at the end of this month that I'm going to attend to go learn about it and see what they have to offer. There is an application for the grant that is due April 13th, but prior to that, we have to submit a letter of intent, so the chamber is going to submit a letter of intent to apply. That's due by next Friday. That's a non-binding letter, so if we decide that that's not good for us this year, then we can back out, that's fine. But we need to go ahead and have that letter in, just in case. So the chamber's going to submit that letter, and then Mr. Mayor and Diane, you and I, and Jim, we need to get together in the next couple weeks and talk about it. Diane, I know you've been to the trainings before with Main Street. And we're gonna see if that's something we can pursue this year.
Previously, you got some participation from some of the downtown people.
And I think because of the mix of merchants that we have downtown right now, we're fuller with downtown merchants than we have been in a long, long time. But this might be a good time to pursue that.
Good.
So, Diane, I'm gonna give you these two letters, and you may already have it. And I'll be getting in touch with you to try to set up a meeting with us and Jim so we can talk about it. And then I'm also gonna give you this. This is partial of my photo proposal that I'm putting together. If you will give it to whoever's doing you all's website, or anybody in city departments, and think of photos that you need, whether it be of the park or the flags on First Street, Memorial Day, anything you think that puts us in a positive light that would be good for advertising, let's add it to this list so we can have that all prepared in time.
Good.
Thank you. All right, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Finance?
We don't have anything at this time.
Fire?
Good news.
Human resource?
I believe we're good at this time. And I don't have anything for the police at this time either.
Street?
Sure.
We had our street committee meeting the other day. We actually took a driving tour of the places that we need to look at concrete replacement for 2018. It's kind of interesting to drive through neighborhoods with a different intent than what you normally would, to see the things that we need to work on. It's very eye-opening. Got a lot of work to do in the city to make sure that we have the roads and drainage and everything the way we want to do. We are happy to say that the department is under budget, but that also brings us to the next problem is purchase of fuel. So I think we'll be talking to the finance committee about that. We need to kind of, look at fuel purchase, what's available with that, because I think the projection is for fuel just go up. So anyway, we want to consider that. We worked on our budget for 2018, and what we had concrete people come in last Friday, and we started looking at the streets that we wanted to redo for 2018, but we kind of have, we're going to need to meet and do some work on the St. Francis Street project. The estimates that we're getting right now are, estimated, our contribution needs to be about 300,000, so if we're gonna do that, 300, maybe over that. So if we're gonna do that, we'll need to redo the streets that we're wanting to take care of this year. So I'd like to have a open meeting of the street committee after tonight's meeting and just discuss that briefly. Anybody wants to attend is welcome to. That's it.
Departmental, fire,
Met with committee tonight on the community development block grant that we're looking at. We're kind of under the gun to get that submitted, but it's 350,000 is the max. But in order to go and complete the project, we have to look at some type of additional financing. We talked to Rural Development, and they've given us kind of a bird's eye view of what it would cost the city to be able to finance it at a 3.5% right now. And in talking to the committee, there's no commitment until the mayor would be authorized to sign for the funding. So we're going to go ahead and continue with it, and at that time, bring it to the full council to decide whether they want to accept it or reject it. In addition to that, we're still working on the other grant for the code. That includes the program that I think Victor talked to the stormwater committee the other night. We had a multi-agency training over the weekend with several departments coming in and try to bring some of our people up to newer people on the rescue techniques with tools and stuff. So that was a pretty good training session. Been busy over the weekend, more than normal. Had several fires and several other incidents. Other than that, this weekend fairly normal in our response and activities. Is there any questions on anything you may have?
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Please.
Just wanted to touch, let everybody know that the recent tornado in Malden, I'm very proud of our people, especially the police department side, also the fire department side. As soon as it was where it could be, we had officers up there, the fire department had people there. We manned a lot of the major damaged areas, and that way it let Malden officers, go ahead and pay special attention to the areas they need to get the people, houses, and search for people and stuff like that, and make sure they check on all the civilians. During that time, there was a shooting just right after that, so their resources got stretched pretty thin. So when we started showing up, it was a good sight, and everybody did a great job at Malden. Chief Bullock done an outstanding job. Everything's working good up there. I was up there today checking on things, and it's getting back as near normal as it can be. Last several months, we've had training. We had radar training. We've also had taser training. We're having instructors within the department now where they can train our people plus any other law enforcement in the area, and that saves several $1,000s because, as you know, most of the money we spend is on travel, meals, and hotels and stuff like that. A lot of the schools do cost, but sometimes we get those either free or at a reduced rate, but most of the expense goes in hotels. So that saves us thousands of dollars, and we're having more training. On the 6th of April, we've got people from Jefferson City coming down, from the Missouri Attorney General's office. They're going to have a 4-hour block on legal stuff that's very pertinent to what we're going through today, and it's very, very, very good. In the last count I had, we've got about 60 people, 60 police officers from around this area is going to be here. So that helps them out, saves them money, and we're doing more of the same. And whatever we can do for the people in the area, it saves them money. That's what we're doing. Don't have anything else right now, unless y'all have any questions.
Thank you, sir.
Bill touched on it, and John did too. We also had a stormwater meeting last week. We're still trying to get our feet on the ground, pardon me, sinus problems. One of the things we found out from Victor was we also have to have a second stormwater plan. It's called an ARAP, and assumptions and responsibilities and something. There's not very many of them around the state. I spent about an hour today trying to find stuff on the DNR's website about it. And I finally came across another city, Lee Summit, has to do it. There's very few cities that do. I only ran off a few pages of their 36-page plan that deals with that. It's basically, in some ways, it's a repeat of the plan we've got, the 6 things that we have to address, but it's having to look at it in a different way, because we're having to assume on how we're going to try to do things down the road. So Victor and I are going to try to get together later this week and talk to an engineering firm that Benton & Associates that's helped us in the past, and see if they've got any experience or knowledge in that. We'll start trying to work towards this. But that's an additional expense from our stormwater money that we really hadn't planned on until we heard this from Victor last time. On the streets, well, on the stormwater too for 3rd Street, we're kind of in a holding pattern as far as proceeding until we can get a little bit of this St. Francis Street addressed. That's the reason for the meeting tonight, so we can still kind of try to keep going forward. And see that there's certain things that on that we can spend transportation money on, and certain things that have to come out of stormwater. So, we're kind of looking at 2 projects and not trying to steal Steve's thunder, but we weren't too pleased with the first figures we got in on the stormwater money of getting $3,400 in on that. Hopefully there's going to be a catch-up day, down the road on that too. But it's kind of hard to project how we can do repayments or do 3rd Street project when we're getting $3,400 a month in on the stormwater. So, we're still proceeding forward, but we're not, moving too fast this time. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Old business for building permits.
Okay, you have an ordinance in your packet, and recall at the last meeting we had a proposed ordinance which would have exempted construction projects from obtaining building permits. And what I heard was that you wanted, that if we found a way to exempt or accept certain projects, that is those projects that don't affect any structural beams or load-bearing supports or the capacity of the building, that you still want to get a permit in order that the building inspector could still make sure that they're compliant with the code, but not require construction documents. So that's what the ordinance is in front of you. And the first reading is an ordinance amending section 107.1 of the International Building Code 2012 as adopted by the city of Kennett to accept proposed construction modification or alterations which do not remove or cut any structural beam or load-bearing support or enlarges the capacity of any building from the requirement of submitting construction documents to obtain a building permit. This still requires a building permit on, that you get a permit on any project But if you're not cutting into a load-bearing support or enlarging the capacity of the building, it would not require construction documents.
On motion,
Motion.
second,
Second.
on favor, say aye.
Aye.
Second reading. An ordinance amending section 107.1 of the International Building Code 2012 as adopted by the city of Kent to accept proposed construction, modification, or alterations which do not remove or cut any structural beam or load-bearing support or enlarges the capacity of any building from the requirement of submitting construction documents to obtain a building permit.
Motion,
Motion.
second, roll call.
Wait a minute, I got a question. This just does contain only two, commercial buildings, right? They're not from, to a private residence.
Private residents are already exempt.
Exempt.
They're exempt.
They're on the, you already don't have to have, well, you don't have to have construction documents.
Unless it's more than a duplex.
Unless it's more than duplex, you don't have to have construction. You have to have a drawing, but you don't have to have, done by a design professional.
And Victor makes that call if they need the permit, you know.
They need the permit.
If they need the plan, right?
What on, no,
On commercial.
So they got a
you're
building
talking
for, you know, they get a building permit and then Victor makes the call if they need the structural plans or not.
well, it depends on what they're doing. If they're, Victor can't, you know, well, the first exception there,
Yeah, the first
under
exception.
107.1, which has been there all along.
Right.
Victor can waive the submission of construction documents. He can make that call. But this one accepts the requirement of construction documents if you're not affecting the structural beam or load-bearing support or enlarging the building's capacity.
Okay.
You still have to get the permit.
Right.
Any other discussion?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Passes. Next item is our compressed roof. We still don't have the leaks fixed. Went out the other day and, needed an umbrella in the building. We will be addressing that, next couple of days here.
I thought we was getting that taken care of.
It is.
It's in process. St. Francis Street project, Brett?
We're gonna kinda look over we're gonna meet this evening, we hope, and look over some of the
Hold us over
requirements.
for that.
Yeah, and kind of explore the options available and see what we're looking at. So, we'll have some help on that, won't
New business.
I can give you more of a report.
we? Go ahead. Mayor,
But it's,
Mayor, you wanna,
that it's,
Well, we're gonna have a meeting here.
but I think he wants to give
yeah, it's the update that I got from Mitzi today, Mitzi Dell, our grant writer, is that she has submitted her report to the state, and it is being looked at to be approved right now. Matt Skelton has just a few changes on the sidewalk that were on there, because the sidewalks are on the original plans. But the ADA sidewalks will be on his new plans, which, whenever I talked with, a year ago to, like Chester Bross, it only changed the bid by $10,000, so they went from a $750 bid to a $760 bid, and Knuckles Brothers never responded with what it would cost to add in the ADA sidewalks. But, so it's still, Chester Bross came in at a low bid anyway, last year at the $760 mark.
Excuse me, is that gonna increase this number $10,000?
No, not the one that, well, because what we submitted was the $760. Because their first response was $750, and then when we talked to them about ADA sidewalks, they said it would just increase it $10,000. But again, those were, preliminary,
to get the budget done and into the CDBG group. And so that, when it goes out there on the good old interweb there to, it's whenever they're bidding against, I don't know how many contractors would look at it, but, $700,000 project, there's gonna be several. So hopefully, to me, I think it probably can come in maybe a little cheaper, but that's just me when you're trying to find, when you got a lot of people bidding, price tends to go down a little bit. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any worries about how much the city's gonna come up with? Is it still gonna be what we originally thought, or is it gonna be more?
That's part of what the discussion is this evening. And, yeah, I mean, one of the issues we're gonna have to deal with is this stormwater money, is this street department money, is this, transportation money? All these things are gonna have to come out of the right pocket, and that's gonna be the big to-do on this, is make sure that we've got the right, we want it to come out appropriately, and, we wanna make sure that we can do some of these other projects as well that have to be done. So, yeah, there's some concerns on everything, but it's, I think it's fair to say that's okay, that's what we're gonna deal with, so.
Yeah, the one thing that we have to really be concerned about is that, in talking with Mitzi today, that if we were to back out of this grant again, firehouse, we wouldn't even have a chance. You'll never get a grant again, but if you back out at this point. So we've got to come up with it, however, because, with the original plans that we submitted last year was 760 and 850 were our two bids for the preliminary. So that's what was signed off on. But yeah, if it gets back out at this point, you can kiss any grant goodbye. And that's a direct quote from this. And that's what she does for a living.
I understand she's a grant writer, but we backed out of a grant, 2 or 3 years ago.
Was it this far?
They approved this one.
So,
I'm just concerned if that number goes up, whether the city can actually afford it. I'm just concerned.
We hear that, Austin.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's so, here's the ordinance. The next item on the agenda is dedication meeting for the City Light Gas and Water Lagoon. City Light Gas and Water Board of Public Works is, through the city, is financing improvements to the lagoon. These are overdue improvements, and they have been directed by the DNR. They have to do them, and it's about a $6 million project. But the financing tool that they're using is a lease purchase agreement, and the lender is requiring that, way back up, and the way it sets, there's the lagoon, and property north of the lagoon is also owned by the city. Only the lagoon property is going to be part of the lease purchase, so the lender is requiring that an easement be dedicated across the other city property that's just north of the lagoon, in order to provide access to the lagoon in case there was somehow the ownership was severed. So that's what this ordinance is, and it's an ordinance authorizing the mayor to sign on behalf of the city of Kennett, Missouri, a dedication of easement to dedicate an easement for entry and egress to certain real property currently owned by the city.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Second reading, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to sign on behalf of the city of Kennett, Missouri, a dedication of easement to dedicate an easement for entry and egress to certain real property currently owned by the city.
Motion.
Second. Aye.
Yes.
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 Aye.
Yes.
The two more ordinances. No. No, that, the ordinance authorizes father to sign the dedication. So, yeah, that's what we're just doing. Okay. Then we get to the two ordinances which actually authorize the lease purchase agreement. And the first one is an ordinance authorizing the city of Kennett, Missouri to enter into a leaseback transaction with First State Community Bank as lessor with respect to construction of certain improvements to the wastewater treatment system and approving related agreements.
Motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Second reading, an ordinance authorizing the city of Kennett, Missouri to enter into a leaseback transaction with First State Community Bank as lessor with respect to construction of certain improvements to the wastewater treatment system and approving related agreements.
Motion.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
The next ordinance you have is one which approves a tax exempt financing compliance procedure for the city. As you can see, there's about 7 or 8 pages, which sets out the compliance procedure and the program for compliance for tax exempt financing, and it is all for this lease purchase agreement in order that it will be tax exempt financing. First reading, an ordinance approving a tax exempt financing compliance procedure for the city of Kennett, Missouri.
Motion. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And I will say that if we come up with other tax exempt financing in the future, we can still use this procedure. Second reading, an ordinance approving a tax exempt financing compliance procedure for the city of Kennett, Missouri.
Motion. Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Who did the second on that? Okay.
Thank you, council, for approving these, CSGW board. And people have done a lot of work, trying to get to this point. And, the lawsuit is still in place. But, we're trying to move forward. Actually, controversy between the EPA and the DNR at this point, so. Trying to do what we gotta do from the city standpoint. We gotta make our recreational ditch for recreation. Just mayor's report tonight, we do have a letter here from Judge Bullock, Chief of Police in Marlin, expressing his appreciation for the immediate response he got from Kennedy to help him in the time of need up there. So, police department and anyone else was involved, thank you very much. And thank God these things keep going north of us and south of us and they don't hit Kennett. So I hate to be in the situation they're in right now. It's pretty devastating. Open the floor for public comments. Council.
For those of y'all may not know me, I'm Josh Wilcoxon, and the main reason I wanted to come here tonight is to tell y'all about our organization, the Glenn Wilcoxon Veterans Center, and to ask for your support. We are going to move our base of operations here to Kennett instead of doing it in Jonesboro. We have a couple of houses that we're working on right now in Jonesboro to fix up and give to some homeless veterans and let them enter our program that we will have for them while they're living in the house. So we wanted to open our base of operations here in Kennett so that we could do our big picture here. That way we can serve the tri-state area. And for what we're doing is it's going to be a homeless shelter, but it's also going to be a place for rehabilitation for PTSD drugs and alcohol. And then there's gonna be some other phases, and I'm not gonna take all the time tonight and go into those, but maybe at a later date, we can show you all the different phases. But I just wanted to come and kind of tell you all a little bit about that and ask for your support, because we're gonna need it. So I'll turn it over to my uncle.
Thank you, sir.
In case you don't know me, I'm Dr. Ron Wilcoxon, and my father's the namesake for our organization. Having served in World War II, was a combat veteran of the POW, and I want to share with you a few stats that maybe you're unaware of. One of them is that we have well over 300,000 veterans who've come home from the last couple of wars over in the big sandbox with PTSD of varying degrees. And some of those are quite severe, but they cause a lot of trauma for these veterans that come home because it affects their ability to have real relationships in the community, it affects their ability to carry on a normal job, that affects their ability to stay in a home. 26% of all homeless in America are veterans. That's a huge figure. On average, when a veteran goes into the status of homelessness, they're not there 1 month or 2 months or 3 months. They're there 6 years. That's an average. And that's a shame. Most of that deals with the fact that they have no way to get help for the issues that caused their homelessness in the first place. And the VA does a good job in certain ways of dealing with the physical aspects of their needs, but the human being is more than just a physical body. The human being is also has a spirit, and we have a personality, which we might refer to as the soul. That are a 3-part human being, and if we only deal with one part, then it's eventually going to affect the other 2 parts. If we deal with 2, it'll be a slower process, but it will affect all 3 eventually. And we have to have a program where we help them with all 3 parts, and that's what Glenn Wilcoxon Veterans Center is all about. We are a 501c3 corporation, and we are needing contributions, but we also can take things like houses and property and buildings that are no longer useful to people, and they say we don't want to do with that anymore. Maybe it's a tax issue or whatever it happens to be. We can turn that around and make it useful for our veterans. And these are men and women who at some point in their life said to our country, here's my life, you take me and use it for the protection of our country. And I think we're to the point in this country, surely we can recognize that kind of commitment and that kind of sacrifice, not just to the veteran, him or herself, but also to the family of the veteran. I know that one of the hardest things I've ever done was to watch my son David climb onto a bus, head to a war zone, knowing that may be the last time I ever get to see him. And I really wanted to climb up into the bus and beat the sergeant up that was driving. I figured, well, if I can't do that, I'll break my own son's leg. He won't get to go. And it was difficult. I heard people for years tell me, I'm a pastor, I heard people for years tell me, Pastor, I'm praying for my son every minute of every day when they're over there. I thought, yeah, you're just saying it because I'm a pastor standing in front of you. Until I had a son go over there, and then I realized that's in your mind 24/7, constant. And you're just absorbed with this idea of where are they, what are they doing, what kind of trouble are they facing, and you're praying all the time. And I can imagine the other families that send their loved one over and then have them come back with severe PTSD or even mild PTSD with other issues. They not only suffered the loss when they sent them over there, they suffer now, maybe even in a greater way, having them home and not being really the person they sent over there originally. So we've got to do something to help these men and women. And I think we can, and I think the city of Kennett's a great place. My father spent most of his life here, invested in this city heavily down through the years, building several things like not just the furniture store, but he was also involved in the group that brought cable television to Kennett. He was involved in the group that brought the bowling out to Kennett and several other things. And so he was one of that builder generation, and we're taking that back up under his name to build something for our veterans. So we just want you to know who we are, what we're trying to do. And if you can find things out here in the city, things that could be helpful and useful to us, we'd love for you to send those things our way. Thank you for letting us speak to you tonight.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Anyone else like to address the council? Excuse me.
you guys doing? Good. My name's Charlie Maddox. I have different hats. I'm a pastor here in town. I was here a year ago, but I'm here as the president of the Ministerial Alliance. I received that job because 2 people before me quit, so. But I've learned a lot since taking over back in May of last year. And we have the main ministry that we have as all the churches in town is called Helping Hand. It's, last year went through some tough times with the former director and had some accusations of racism, and so we lost the food bank, USDA, different things like that. And so we've been really trying to work with the government, with the city, different organizations, with Caring Council, trying to get all that back. What's been really neat is that in the fall last year, around Thanksgiving, the Boy Scouts, the director of the Boy Scouts that got all the canned food drive, they gave us 10,000 cans of food. And so we're about to run out of that, but later on in December, somebody came into town and gave 3 checks out and ended up giving $5,000 to Helping Hand. And so it's starting to build back up. We're actually helping over 600 individuals a month, and over 300 families. What we do is we have a food box that we give out once a month to anybody that comes in, every household that comes in. And so we can give it to every individual, we don't have enough food. And so we've been talking about different ideas because the Ministerial Alliance does have a little bit of money, but it runs out. You know, trying to buy meat or different things to supplement that, and we're trying to get the food bank back and USDA and all that. So while we're working on that, what we thought we would do, we'd come before you and ask if we could do a Helping Hand Day. It's a local charity helping local people. Local people helping the charity that's helping local people. We do help some people outside of the city that come in with great need, but our focus is for Kennett. We want to help people that have a need here in Kennett. Sometimes, you know, we're all 60 minutes away from being on the street. We can make a bad decision and lose everything. We can, you know, there's people that we understand that some decisions they make that they shouldn't make, and we try to help them and counsel them with that as well, but we want to be at least a stopgap, kind of at least a help. We can't afford to pay for the electric bill anymore, but we're at least helping with food. We do have a clothing store on the side, but we end up giving more than we sell because we just don't have the heart to, if they come in need clothes. I mean, you can't send somebody out in 20-degree weather with no jacket. Basically, Jesus said, if you do that, I don't even know you. And so, we don't want to do that. And so we print up just a generic flyer. It has a date. We put the date of May 1st, but I'd just like you guys to take a look at it if you don't mind. And the reason why I'm coming tonight is because I don't want to do anything in the city without, I don't know necessarily if we need your permission, but man, I sure would like it, or your blessing at least, because this is a city thing. This is not Charlie Maddox and our church. This is not 5 other churches. This is a city thing, and there's a lot of needs in our city, and there are people on each one of our wards that have a need, and sometimes maybe it's only a need once a year or twice a year, but we try to be there every month of the year. And so what we just printed up a generic flyer about a Helping Hand Day. We proposed May 1st. It's the first week of the May, gives us time to promote it. What I'd like to do is get a better flyer with more details on it, and of course the phone number, contact, and all that stuff, and get it out to businesses, every church, anybody else that wants to pass it around, maybe get on the radio. We're definitely gonna put it in the paper, different things like that to promote it. And the monetary gifts, we are a 501c3, Helping Hand is a 501c3, so the monetary gifts can be tax deductible. I don't know how to do, I'm not one of those people, I don't know how to do like food donations as tax deductible. I don't know if that's possible, so I've never tried that. So, but at least we want to get, I talked to Miss Diane last week, and she recommended putting a box maybe at the police station, and people could donate there as well. But also Helping Hands here close on Frisco Street, so. But anyway, I just thought I'd present that to you guys and see what you thought, if that was an okay idea to have a day, Helping Hand Day in the city, and we'll promote that, and if it was okay.
I did a motion.
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 Oh,
Motion is second, all in favor say aye.
there you go.
There you go.
Easy enough?
You can get him to smile. I appreciate it, and thank you guys so much. If there's anything that we can do for you as a Ministerial Alliance, if there's anything our church can do for you, just a little note in our church, now that you presented that thing about the building permits, I'm about to go look and see, we're pulling paneling off the walls. We were checking if we need a building permit for that. We're trying to remodel, and we changed the name. We closed First Assembly, we changed the name, so we're opening a new church. But, we're here, my wife and I, our adopted son Elijah from Africa, Ethiopia. Our second daughter is here with us, helping with the youth. We're here for the community. We're here for you guys if you need anything. Let me give you my phone number. It's supposed to be on there. So if you can contact me if you need anything about this or anything in the community, know anybody that has a need. It's area code 417-755-9518. And my name is Charlie with EY, MATTIX. If you have any suggestions, any ideas that can help us help others, we'd love that. And we'd love to be able to help you guys help others as well. Okay?
Whatever
Thank you.
we can do, let us know.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Now, we'll close our regular meeting and we've got a 5-minute break and go into closed session. Or you want to have your...
No, we'll do the, after the closed meeting.
Motion.
Roll call.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.